Welcome back to another edition of our Health, Hope, and Happiness broadcast brought to you by Stifel. On today's segment of Ask Dr. Steve, CNA welcomes back Dr. Steve Grave, owner of Mindurance, an organization for one-on-one online mental health coaching to help our coaches and athletes manage stress and enhance their performance. And so, as always, we take a look from the parental side of things, which usually interests me just a little bit more. And I have a little bit more background since, as we mentioned before, I have a couple kids who played sports and they're even playing it into the collegiate level. But what steps can a parent do to prepare their athlete for the start of the season? And again, you just concluded by saying a lot of this is the athlete's responsibility. But as we look at those freshmen and sophomores still gaining some of those important skills, how can a parent step in and sort of help along the process?
Yeah. So first off, again, I think it starts at the summer, and for some parents, your kid's going to participate in a particular sport. For others, it may come as a surprise. Maybe the kid comes to you one day and it's like, "Hey, I want to play football or golf this year," and you're like, "Oh, really? I hadn't heard of such a thing." Okay.
Yeah, I went through
Let's
that with my son. He just up and decided, hey, I want to be the kicker on the team like a week before practice started. Oh, okay, well, there
yeah. So
you go.
that can happen. That can absolutely happen. So I think as just a frame, it's having a conversation, and I think we as humans need to just get better at this. But you're choosing to do something. You're now choosing to do something that is demanding. Okay. And by nature, something that is demanding is now a stressor. It's a stressor because a stressor is anything positive or negative that drains our mental, physical, and psychological fuel tank. So by nature, a sport is a stressor. And so when we have a stressor, I think it would behoove us to have a conversation ahead of time about, okay, we're entering into this stage, whether you've done it before or not, you're signing up for this stressor. How do we want to go about managing this stressor? What are you going to commit to over the course of the summer to meet the needs of the stressor when it comes up? What do you want from us as a parents to help you in that? So I think by having this upfront, non-emotionally laden conversation about this upcoming stressor, I think is very valuable for folks. So that communication is critical. With that communication, I think asking, what goals do you have for what's your intention behind signing up for this? What goals do you have? Again, how can we support you in those goals? Obviously, parents are going to have a role in providing necessary equipment. Um, Parents, I remember my mom, she made this incredible like boxed lunch in between 2 days. It had a Powerade and this cold turkey sandwich and other snacks. So can the parents can commit to offering those nutritional needs, or is that going to be on the student athlete to prepare those themselves? Do they need to even get their own groceries? So like having some of these conversations ahead of time, and what expectations and roles and responsibilities the athlete has and what the parents have, um, I think can make the transition a lot more effective too.
So the athlete comes home from 2-a-day workouts. What signs of exhaustion or what should a parent be looking for from a physical and mental standpoint here? Again,
Yes.
I know we said in the summer or in the fall, if it's a winter sport, kind of preparing there. Uh, but you can do all the preparation you want, but sometimes that just doesn't work.
Yeah. Well, first off, it's just listening, right, to the athlete, and if they say I'm not feeling very good, that's a pretty good indication, right? And taking those things seriously. So that you'd be surprised, like, oh, brush it off, rub some dirt on it. Some of these old school ways of handling these challenges. But just being open and listening and having things checked out should that be warranted. Physical signs though, fatigue, soreness, excessive sweating, very heavy breathing, cramping, reduced appetite, uh, dehydration, so mental fogginess, sluggishness. From a mental standpoint, again, these irritability, mood swings, difficulty concentrating, following simple instructions, decreased enthusiasm for activities they typically enjoy. Those, your son or daughter, hopefully. And if something seems off, while recognizing they just got back from an 8-hour day of practice, but nonetheless, knowing, okay, the fatigue, soreness is going to be kind of part of the deal a little bit. But if it seems out of the ordinary, trust your gut on that. I also don't think that it hurts to just ask, like that could be part of the conversation before the preseason. All right, hey, the stressor is here. You're going to do some challenging things, some demanding things, some physical things. What do you think about me at the end of the day? Just asking you, a scale to 10, like how you're doing physically. Are you feeling all right? Are you feeling, just having a little check, because it helps me as a parent know that you're feeling all right. But it also lets me know if you're not, that maybe we can do something different to help you better manage. So those types of conversations, I think, go a long way.
And so as we continue that conversation, parents may notice that their kid is a little bit more agitated or grumpier as these workouts set in, and everybody's still adjusting to a new routine and a new schedule, whether they squeezed in a last-minute family vacation or the student athlete rearranged their work schedule or whatever took place. What advice would you give a parent to not agitate that situation even more, or maybe agitate's not the right word, but further upset the apple cart than it may already be headed?
Yes. Well, I know I sound like a little broken record, but acknowledging this ahead of time can also be important. So these conversations are much easier to have when there's not emotion attached to them in the moment. So you could get ahead of this by saying, I remember when I was an athlete, or I heard on a podcast that when things are hot and it's physically challenging, you can come home, you're hangry. Yeah, people can get really grumpy. How do you want to can be helpful to address these particular situations? Though, having said that, in the moment, offering empathy and understanding. Hey, I remember us talking about this. I can imagine how challenging this can be. It's hot outside. You're working your butt off. This is new, or it's newer. You haven't done this in a year. So understanding and offering that empathy. You can also offer some like positive things, right? Like, I know you're working so hard. I've seen the growth and the effort that you're putting into this. So really appreciating the positive and reinforcing those positives can be super beneficial. I think being patient, if the child isn't really wanting to talk about it in that moment, that's okay. Hey, I am here. I can appreciate that you might not want to talk about this right now. In fact, just got home. I probably wouldn't want to talk about it either, but know that we're here. I want to give you some space, and maybe let's follow up here after dinner when you've had some time to relax and take a nap and have something to eat. So being patient, whether that's in the micro, meaning, hey, take an hour to just figure this out, or in the macro, hey, I know it's day one. Let's just see how things go in a week, and we can reevaluate. It's a long way.
And so this is always a fun one that I enjoyed. I don't know that my kids so much enjoyed. When they're underclassmen, obviously, usually the parent is picking them up. Or if they're an upperclassman, in most cases, they're driving or hitch a ride with a friend. But if the kid gets in the car and is just complaining about the workout, and you're the venter or the trusted adult, so they feel comfortable kind of letting it all out on you. How does the parent react in that moment where an upperclassman has that time if they're driving home, can kind of deregulate with nobody in the car, self-regulate by the time they walk in, and then even if they're still tired or grumpy or they can follow the messages you just, the advice you just gave. But what's the real advice for a parent that has to pick up their child and kind of listen to that when maybe the parent did or did not have a great day at work themselves? So just kind of walk us through that scenario a little bit.
Yeah, just one, I think as you're going to pick up the child, know that that could potentially be what you run into and what you're faced with. So being open to that and kind of getting into that role, knowing it's a temporary role, and you may have your own things going on, but just sliding into that role can be effective. Just offering that ear, right? Sometimes we think as parents that we need to fix something or offer this Yoda-like advice. Sometimes it's just being patient and letting the kids spout off on whatever they want to spout off about, and that's all they need, right? That's all they need. So first and foremost, transition into the role, offer an active ear. You can then provide encouragement, just offering them reassurance that, hey, you know what, you're doing some really hard things. Not everybody does this, right? It's going to be demanding. It is a stressor. I hear that this can be challenging. And I also think asking kind of ahead of time or even in the moment, what support can I offer? What do you need? What would you like from me? Is there anything, or you just need an ear? And I think just by having that conversation and level setting of what the athlete needs, they may share, I just want to talk, or I don't know what I want. Like, that's okay. Right. Hey, I'm here. I'm here. I'm listening to you. Fill me in as much as you want to fill me in on it. So I just think, not needing like you got to have this hammer or this whiteboard and fix the situation. It's more about being a container of support to be able to hold and pause and manage whatever your child ends up saying regarding that day.
And I know you mentioned it earlier. You can just kind of briefly re-emphasize it a little bit. On the mental side, parents can help by sending extra drinks or snacks to practice if they're allowed a break, or just have those readily available at home. What message does that also send to the athletes? Like, my mom and dad is thinking about me. My mom and dad care about me. Like, what did that be like when you opened up that lunch in between two-a-days, and how did that help?
Yeah, I think, there's during the course of the practice, it feels like there's not always a lot of things that we can control, um, or that we can anchor to. But when we have those breaks and we have that meal, or we have that note of encouragement, or we have that packed lunch, it's kind of a mental and emotional reset that's like, okay, hey, like it's all good. I'm recharging the battery. I'm doing something hard. I have people that love and care about me that are supporting this endeavor. And that's not always what we're thinking about. Sometimes we're just
Right.
starving and we, munch through it so we can take a 15-minute nap before we have to go back out there and eat. But sometimes, it just is that anchor, that reset, that, if you're in a supportive family environment like that, that can go a long way.
Okay. And then anything on the parental side that we missed, or just in general with the whole topic we talked about today, that you'd like to sort of sum everything up with?
Yeah. So just a reminder that, like, this is the athlete's journey. Okay. It's also your journey as a parent, but it's your parenting journey with a child who happens to be an athlete. All right. It's the child's athletic journey. All right. That's going on. So if you were successful or you weren't successful, the child's experience may or may not be that. So being open minded, having that supportive container, offering that, I think is critical.
All right, well, this wraps up another great edition of Dr. Steve, and this is on the Health, Hope, and Happiness podcast, brought to you by Stifel. So once again, thanks, Dr. Steve, for your wonderful insights into this topic on conditioning, and we look forward to another great segment and hearing about what you have laid out for the future the next time.
Awesome. Well, hey, appreciate the time. Folks have any follow-up questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, keep up the great work, y'all. Have a great preseason, and we will see you all soon.